This is the Ampeg SVP-CL all-tube bass preamp. The CL stands for classic. This is similar to the SVT line, and that the SVP, the P stands for preamp. So this is an all-tube bass preamp. There are 4 tubes in it. It is a very clean preamp. So if you're looking for a preamp for your guitar, it's not going to do dirt. A lot of times you will get an overdriven sound out of tube amps. This will not be the case for this guy. It's super quiet, which is great for recording, and it's still going to give you a really good tone coming out of your amp. You can pair this up with an existing head that you have, or if you want to pick up one of the high power amps like a Crown or QSC type of amplifier, this will go great into powering that. The one thing you do need to be aware of is that the output voltage on this from the factory was originally 0.775 volts. That may not be enough for your power amp. Your input sensitivity for that power amp needs to be 0.775 or lower. There was a modification that Ampeg released where you could send it in, or if you were competent, do it yourself, that bumped the output voltage of this preamp up to 1.5 volts, which is usable by most modern preamps. I don't know the logic behind the 0.775 output voltage, but just be aware of that. If it's not driving your power amp the way you thought, it might be that the output voltage isn't enough to actually register with your power amp. This is the back side of the preamp. It's able to support a tuner output. It has a balanced XLR, essentially a DI. I'm not using that today. I'm using the REDDI by A Designs. On the output there is a pre-post, so you're able to send the bass signal pre-EQ or post-EQ. I'm going to be sending it post-EQ today, obviously. There's also a ground lift switch. If you're getting some hum, you can lift that switch and it should cancel the hum. The preamp outputs, there are 2 of them, which is handy if you need to drive 2 amplifiers with this. You can do that, and then here's a foot switch control for muting that's available from Ampeg. There is no insert, so you can't run a signal chain from this, which is a bit of a disappointment, but it's not the end of the world, and you can certainly work around it with just cables. As I mentioned, I'm running the bass signal from the preamp out of the REDDI, or REDDI as some people are calling it. The manufacturer here is A Designs, and they're based in California. This is a sweet box. There are a lot of reviews on this and information about it on the internet, so I'm not going to go into it, but it is an excellent DI. Here are the input controls. You have your 1/4" input here. If you are running an active bass, there's a switch here that can be depressed that pads the signal. I'm running passive today, so I'll leave this out. The mute button, if you need to change guitars, you can hit this right here and it will control the signal to the preamp and keep you from making that much hated popping sound. You'll also notice that when the mute is engaged, the peak light comes on. The gain knob, this is specific to how much the tubes are being driven, and as I said, this is a very clean preamp. It's not going to give you dirt. You can roll this all the way to the right, and it's not going to give you dirt. It's just going to drive the tubes. The advantage of this knob is if you're running a passive bass that maybe has low output, you can really crank up the gain of the signal, and it's important to watch the peak light. If you're playing heavily with the knob set fully engaged at 10, and it rolls past 10, and that's 0, is at the horizontal. Anyways, if your light's coming on, back your your gain off a little bit so that you're not going to clip as you're playing. My basses tend to run pretty quiet, so I leave the gain set. Next over is your ultra low, and there are 5 settings here. The first setting is flat. The second setting adds a little bit of bass boost, a little bit of bass cut, mimicking the SVT. Setting 3 is supposed to be pretty much a dead-on SVT sound with no bass boost whatsoever. Setting 4 gives you a little bit of a bump to the low end, and setting 5 is more of a modern sound. Now, one thing that's important to note here is these numbers don't exactly line up. So 1 appears to line up pretty well. 2 looks like it's lining up halfway between. 3 is just off. 4 looks like it's pointing to 3, and 5 looks like it's pointing to 4. I don't know why Ampeg did it this way, but they did. And so, you know, it makes it, I don't know, it doesn't ruin it by any means, but it's, you know, presentation that's not quite right. If you want to add some ultra high, this bumps up the high range, and some bright adds some tone in. So those are switches that can be pressed, depressed for your preferences. This is the EQ section of the preamp. You have bass, mid frequency, treble, and master. You essentially, with the mid frequency knob, you have the option of choosing between 5 different frequencies that you can cut and boost, and all of these are cut boost. Currently they're set to flat. And then finally over here you have your volume control, master volume.